Hello, Obophiles. Today we're talking about auditions. I've taken a few auditions recently, and I've also got to talk to a few people who have won auditions recently. So I wanted to kind of share with you some advice on different kinds of auditions. I know a lot of people are getting ready for maybe region auditions, solo ensemble auditions, orchestral auditions, undergraduate auditions, or graduate auditions, and hopefully some of these tips will be useful for all of you, because these different kinds of auditions require different skills, different preparations, and different kinds of things that are important to be aware of. So I've boiled it down to 5 different tips, and we'll hear some advice from some amazing players from around the world, really. So let's get into it. The first tip has to do with your preparations long before the audition is going to happen, and that is to organize your music. I talked to Gina Ford, who recently won the principal oboe position with the Dallas Opera, and she gave me this amazing piece of advice concerning what to do with your music when you decide to take an audition. Do you think you could help us?
Those are such big questions. I will start with your second question.
Okay.
For auditions, I really like to make an audition book, an official book that I use. So pretty much as soon as I decide that I'm going to do something, whether it's a festival audition, for grad school, undergrad, for a professional orchestra, I take the list that they've given me and I make that my front page. And then I arrange all of my music according to the list and make my nice copies front and back. And I take it to a copy store and get it bound with like a clear front. And I usually make 2 of those. And that way, when I go play for somebody, I can hand them all of my repertoire and we can go through, they can make me notes. And that really helps me stay focused. You know, if that's the only thing on my stand, I'm not thinking about some random etude or some cool piece. You know, I just try to focus on that. And that's really helped me.
From now on, I'm going to make little booklets for all of my audition preparations. I made this one for my grad school auditions. You can see on the front, there's a table of contents so that I know what's going on in there and where to look for stuff. And just like Gina said, there's some daily practice stuff at the beginning, and then just all the audition material I'm going to need so I can be really focused and all in one place. So, you know, you might want to take care of that if you are going to be auditioning for something. And I hope that is something that helps you. I think it's helping me, and I'm going to keep doing it. Some more advice dealing with the beginning of your audition preparation is when to prepare. I talked to Alex Lynch, who recently got on the sub list through an audition for the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. So I'd like you to hear what she has to say about audition preparations. So let's talk about audition preparation. Everybody struggles to know exactly what to do, right? What to do when. In the moment of the audition, the preparation is too late, right?
Yeah.
So like, how far in advance do you start preparing for an audition?
Well, I mean, for oboe, of course, like the excerpts are basically the same for a lot of things. So I've basically been preparing for years, but also in terms of like specific focus preparation, basically as soon as I decide to take on an audition, I'll try to just start preparing for it.
Ideally, months or weeks?
It'd be cool if I would have months. I don't know if that's necessarily usually going to happen, but it'd be nice just to have at least weeks, definitely.
Okay. But the idea is to be in a prepared state so that you could probably take the audition.
Whenever, yeah, that's the ideal.
So you want to prepare as soon as possible. Another way to prepare as soon as possible is to always be ready. And I think that's something that I'd like to really incorporate into my mental preparation as well. Tip number 2 is to be really intentional about your practice. It's no secret that 15 minutes of intense focused practice is way better than hours and hours of scattered nonsense practicing. I asked Gina about how she gets the most out of her practice sessions.
I asked somebody that I know who played in one of the world's great orchestras. I'll just leave it there. I asked him what his practice routine was like. And he said that he practiced for about 3 hours a day, which honestly isn't that much. You know, I think a lot of people probably practice that much. Yeah. Maybe not all oboists.
So go practice!
But he recorded every minute of it and then would listen back to it. And so I tried to incorporate that into my practice. And as I was getting closer and closer to an audition, I would run the whole list in a different order every day, as if it were the audition, and just record it on my iPhone. And then either immediately after or a few hours later, listen back to it and kind of critique myself as if I were a committee member. And that just helped me get some space from my playing and to be more honest with myself about what was happening. So the big thing for me has been recording myself, even on a simple thing like the phone.
You would record your whole practice session?
No, that was too much for me.
Okay.
But I would set aside a time, really the end of my practice, where I'm going to run through the list and I'm not going to stop, no matter what. It's like the real audition, and I would record that.
Okay.
And then, maybe 2 hours later, listen to it with my music and kind of make notes. And it was shocking what mattered and what didn't.
Can you give an example?
I just realized I basically had no dynamics.
Oh.
I thought I was doing these great dynamics, and you just couldn't hear them at all. And so I realized I really needed to broaden my range. And I would get obsessed about sometimes, when you get a little tip noise or like a little spitty sound in your reed. I hate that. So for me, that's like the end of the world, if you're playing something and that happens. And I kind of realized I couldn't hear it in the recordings, and I needed to get over it if it happened and just keep playing.
Tip number 3 is to record yourself. Right now, during this practice session I just had, I was using this little mini recorder, the Zoom, which is actually a friend's. My own personal recorder, it broke recently, and I'm using this one for now, but I'm going to buy a new one soon. So if you have recommendations for them, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys are using to record yourself. My life changed for the better dramatically when I started recording myself during practice sessions, so I could hear back if what I'm doing is actually what I think I'm doing. Staying along with how to prepare for the auditions and get your skills up to par in your practice sessions, I interviewed Jason Lichtenwalter from the Colorado Symphony. He plays the English horn and sometimes plays second oboe when needed. But he had some great advice as far as what to do daily in your practice to constantly be improving your skills. What is something that you do or recommend people do when they're trying to level up their playing? Not on an immediate scale, but on a day-to-day grind scale.
My de facto answer would be long tones.
Long tones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like, kind of like the way Mr. Caldwell taught, which, we played Barrett for everything. I feel like you can do absolutely everything, you can work on absolutely everything with your long tones, because there can be variations of it then. But it can progress from, how the note starts to getting the dynamic range and coming back to then that morphs into, okay, you're mimicking the shape you want to create with the phrase. So I know John Ferrillo has a wonderful exercise where you play a phrase just on one note. And I love this exercise because I remember Kathy Greenbank saying, I had the great fortune to do some lessons with her at Aspen when she was still there. I studied with her for a few of the lessons and then Mr. Delancey for the others. And I remember her talking about that the notes are just the given, right? But it's what you do with the shape of that phrase of those notes is like the icing on the cake. And so if we think about it in terms of a long tone, that's how you add that extra life to that phrase beyond just the intervals and intervals that create the melody. So that to me was a really big influence. And then to have John Ferrillo talk about it in terms of playing a note on a phrase on just one note as a way to see what you're really doing with the shaping. So I really like that concept.
Cool. You can see any of these interviews in full by checking out the rest of the channel. If I've actually completed the edits on the full interview, you can check them out in the corners above, and I'll put those in as they get done. Tip number 4 is about the audition day itself. It's easy to stress out in your warm-up right before the audition or, let all kinds of things psych you out. But you want to make sure that you're just focused on the things you can control. And usually in an audition, all that means is getting your body to the right place, having an instrument that works and a reed that works, and making sure that you're healthy enough to perform your best. So, on the audition day, have yourself a ritual. Make sure you get enough sleep, make sure you're eating well, make sure you're arriving with plenty of time, and make sure that you're not over practicing the day before or the day of. Maybe you're freaking out about your read, you're getting inside your own head. Make sure you just plan on what you're going to do to warm up that day, and I'll do a lick more. I hope that helps you out, and I'm trying always to incorporate that into my own life. It's very difficult to actually do, but we're always trying to be better.
Well, I think for me, one of the biggest distinctions is that I didn't necessarily, when I took the auditions, know how much time I'd have to warm up. So for me, that was a little bit nerve-wracking, just because there are all these people there, and you don't know exactly when you're going out. So you just basically have to spend the entire time always being ready.
Right, and you don't want to exhaust yourself in the whole.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, especially being an oboist. Like, how long do I soak my reed? When do I soak my reed?
So how long do you soak your reed?
That depends on the weather.
Oh. So it's hard to be an oboe player, as we all know. Now, before we get into the last tip number 5, I wanted to talk about the differences in kinds of auditions. Obviously, region band audition from state to state is different, but all those region band auditions are going to be completely different than school placement auditions for orchestra or band, or undergraduate auditions, grad school auditions, or even orchestral job auditions. So you want to be really familiar with what you're getting into, what the rules are, and how you can execute on what the judges are looking for. Right? It's not necessarily who the best player is, it's who the judges think would be the best for the role. So keep that in mind as you prepare for your auditions. And even within one audition, a first round and a final round might be very different. And Alex actually illustrates this very well. So how is the final round different than the primary round, than the first round?
The final round, I felt a lot more comfortable there because the panel talked to me a bit and I got to see them. It wasn't blind anymore. So they would have me redo things a few times or change my musical interpretation, and it just felt a lot more comfortable and less artificial in a sense.
So tip number 5 is to keep going. Don't let auditions affect your spirit in a profound way. Take them as criticism to grow from, and remember to keep working hard. If you persevere, you've already won, right? The victory, the goal, the prize is the journey itself. So if you're always getting better and you're being honest with yourself, you're already a winner of that audition. I know it sounds super cheesy and it's really hard to believe, but the faster you accept that in your heart, the happier you're going to be, and the easier time you're going to have just like continuing on your dream and not giving up. Oh, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. Your support for this channel has meant a lot to me, and I just really like making them. I hope that they're helpful for somebody out there. And of course, when in doubt, play beautifully.
Thank you.